Okay, so uh, you know how sometimes you wake up from a dream and you're like, what was that all about? Well, today we're diving into a story that'll leave you with that feeling, but like times 1,000.
Yeah, we're tackling Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis.
And just saying that title out loud already kind of gives me the
It's
creeps.
one of those stories that gets under your skin and stays with you.
Big time. So for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure, let's just say it's about a guy,
And Gregor Samsa.
right, Gregor, who wakes up one morning and he's not exactly himself anymore.
To put it mildly, yeah.
Uh,
He's transformed into a giant insect.
Okay, so we've got the basic setup. A man turns into a bug. But this isn't some cheesy horror flick.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The Metamorphosis is considered one of the most important works of literature of the 20th century.
And for good reason. It's not just about the physical transformation. Kafka uses this wild premise to explore some really deep stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about alienation, identity, family dynamics.
And a whole lot of existential dread.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack all of that and see why the Metamorphosis still resonates with readers over 100 years later.
Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a wild ride. Yeah. So right off the bat, Kafka throws us this curveball. Gregor wakes up as a bug, and you'd think his first reaction would be sheer panic.
Perhaps so.
But instead, his main concern is, oh no, I'm going to be late for work. I mean, what does that tell us about this guy?
Well, it tells us a lot about the kind of life Gregor was living even before the whole bug situation. He's totally defined by his job. He feels this immense pressure to provide for his family.
Right. We learn that he's the sole breadwinner. His father's business went bankrupt. His sister's too young to work.
So Gregor's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's trapped in this cycle of obligation and responsibility.
Which honestly makes the bug transformation almost feel like an escape in a twisted way, like maybe on some subconscious level.
It's definitely open to interpretation, but you could argue that becoming a bug is a physical manifestation of the alienation and dehumanization he already felt in his everyday life.
Whoa, mind blown. It's like he was already a bug in a metaphorical sense,
Yeah.
you know, just grinding away, feeling trapped.
Exactly. And that sense of alienation is only amplified by his family's reaction to his transformation.
Oh man, talk about a dysfunctional family. I mean, they're horrified at first, which is understandable, but then things get really messed up.
Kafka doesn't shy away from showing the dark side of family relationships. He explores how love and compassion can be conditional.
Right. Like as long as Gregor was the provider, everything was fine. But the moment he becomes a burden, well,
The dynamic shifts completely. His family starts seeing him as a problem to be dealt with. They're disgusted by him.
it's heartbreaking. His own sister, Greed, who initially tries to care for him, eventually turns on him too.
She becomes the one who advocates for getting rid of him. It's a really disturbing but also thought-provoking commentary on how societal expectations can warp even the closest of bonds.
And it raises this question. Are the family members inherently cruel? Or are they also victims of the system? Are they so caught up in their own struggles that they're incapable of empathy?
It's a complex issue, and Kafka doesn't offer any easy answers. He just presents the situation in all its bleakness, leaving us to wrestle with the implications.
Which brings us to the whole existential dread thing. I mean, Kafka just drops us into this absurd situation with no explanation. Gregor wakes up as a bug, and that's it. No reason, no cure, just deal with it. How do you think that lack of explanation contributes to the overall feeling of the story?
It's a crucial element. By refusing to give us a reason for Gregor's transformation, Kafka is essentially saying that sometimes life just throws you curveballs. There's no grand plan, no easy answers. And that can be a terrifying thought, especially in a world that's constantly searching for meaning and purpose.
Right. We want things to make sense. We want control. But the metamorphosis throws all that out the window.
Exactly. It forces us to confront the absurdity of existence, the idea that we might not have as much control over our lives as we think.
Okay, so we've talked about the alienation, the family dynamics, the existential dread. Now let's get to the juicy part.
The symbolism.
Yeah. What does the bug represent? What's Kafka trying to tell us?
That's the beauty of this story. It's open to multiple interpretations. There's no one right answer.
Which can be frustrating. I want answers, people.
I know, but ambiguity can be powerful too. It forces us to engage with the text on a deeper level, to bring our own experiences and perspectives to bear.
Okay, I'm trying to be open-minded here. So what are some of the common interpretations of the bug?
One way to look at it is that the bug represents the crushing burden of responsibility. Gregor was carrying the weight of his family on his back.
Literally. Now he's literally carrying a shell.
Right, so it could be seen as a physical manifestation of that burden. Another interpretation is that the bug represents social isolation, feeling like an outsider.
Like Gregor's already alienated from his family even before the transformation. But as a bug, he's completely cut off from human connection.
Exactly. He can't communicate. He's repulsive to others. It's like he's become the embodiment of everything society deems undesirable.
Which kind of makes you think about how we treat people who are different, who don't fit in. It's like Kafka's holding up a mirror to our own prejudices.
Exactly. And then there's the interpretation that the bug represents the dehumanizing effects of modern life. Gregor's job was soul-crushing, repetitive. He was basically a cog in a machine.
And now he's literally become something less than human.
Right. So the transformation could be seen as a metaphor for how modern society can strip us of our individuality, our sense of self.
It's like Kafka saying, hey, look around. Are we really that different from Gregor? Are we also becoming bugs in our own ways?
That's the power of the story. It makes us question our own lives, our own choices. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Alienation, family dysfunction, existentialism, the dehumanizing aspects of modern life. It's heavy stuff.
It is. But it's also incredibly thought-provoking. And I think that's Kafka's ultimate goal, to make us think, to challenge our assumptions.
To maybe even have a few nightmares along the way. So next time you're feeling a little lost, a little alienated, a little bugged out by the world, remember Gregor Samsa.
And remember that even in the darkest, most absurd situations, there's still something to be learned, something to be gained from grappling with the big questions.
Food for thought, folks. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go check under my bed for giant bugs.
Probably a good idea. You never know.
Huh.